Hey, everybody, welcome back to Never Stop Building. I'm your host, Sam Kaufman. I have the honor of being joined by that tile chick this morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. So I'm not going to call you that tile chick for the duration of this interview. So I'm also joined by Shannon. So
Yes.
yes,
AKA Shannon Violet, Shannon Yotis. All of those names are okay.
there are so many names. I'll stick with Shannon
Yeah.
as we're talking.
Yeah.
So cool. So Shannon has amassed an incredible following on social media. Her handle is that tile chick, TikTok and Instagram. And the content is incredible. The following seems really active and engaged. And it's actually quite impressive. You're doing like DIY, like how to informational videos. And you're a woman in an industry that is primarily dominated by very obnoxious men. And so I'm so hyper interested in your story. Like, where were you? And then like, how did you get here?
Uh, how much time you got?
Unlimited if it's
So
a good story.
um it's a good story because like I never intended to be setting time. Never. Like it was never something that I even thought of, but that's the way the world is, especially being a girl. Like you never think in your brain like, oh, I can go be an electrician, or I can go do this and do that. Like it's kind of like really last. I actually went to school to be an accountant, and I was an accountant for like 8 years. um, and I primarily worked government. um, what really spun, and I know that like this was the turning point in my life, was forever I wanted to work for this one government, quasi government agency. And I know that like it was like my dream job. I'm like, I want to be an auditor here. This is where I want to work. uh, my whole world revolved around getting that job. And when I finally got that job, I was there 7 months, and I realized I was miserable. It wasn't 7 months till I realized I was miserable. It was like 3 months in. Everybody was literally just clicking off the days of their calendar when they're going to retire, collect their pension. It was nobody worked based on performance. It was just you show up. It didn't matter if you showed up late. It didn't matter if you actually did any work while you were there. If you took your lunch break and you were gone for 3 hours, like that. It was just like the most weird thing to me, because I know a lot of people listening are probably like, you're crazy. Go to work, do your time, collect your pension, and do all that other stuff, and just keep your mouth shut. But truthfully, when I looked at my life and I'm like, this is going to be for the next, I don't even know how long. I'm like, this is just not, it's not for me. Like, I'm not ready to just like sit here and ready and like be bored to death for the rest of my life. I can't for like 8 hours of the day. To top it all off, I was driving like 2 hours to and from work, and it was only 30 miles because it was at the time I was living on the East Coast in New Jersey. So it was just like all those things collectively. And then it was like, I really wanted to buy a house. All the houses around this place was like so expensive, and you were getting like no house for all your money. I'm like, I'm going to be working for the rest of my life to afford this little, uh, sorry, can I curse?
Oh yeah, you definitely can.
For this little shit box. And I'm like, this is just like not me. Like, I don't think that this is the life for me. So fast forward, my now husband and I, we moved to Texas, and we started a general contracting business. At the time, I was still just working as an accountant and helping him whenever I could. It was the biggest struggle of our life ever, from 2017 to 2020. Like, he barely brought in any money. It was, well, one, we moved like to a place where none of our family was. We had no support. We just like moved and changed our life. Warmer weather, better, prices for real estate and all that. I was very lucky that I still had the ability to have a job, and we weren't just relying on our business. But it was still a really big struggle for us. And come 2020, from 2017 to 2020, all those struggles taught us a lot of lessons. And it kind of like catapulted us into the tile industry, because what we kept noticing, it was a constant, like, reoccurring thing where it was customers who were having failing showers. They were not able to find a contractor that, like, a tile contractor that knew what the heck they were doing when it came to building a bathroom. They were having all these problems. And then even when Chris was getting a project, it was like he was ripping out the bathroom and realizing that, like, there was a lot of things done incorrectly. He was just finding things as he went. So it both of us, like, we would spend dinner time after dinner, like, trying to read, and like we got onto these Facebook groups that were all about tile, and it forced us to network with people in the tile industry. And we started finding out a lot more information and figuring out all these different things, and then meeting all these really awesome people within our industry. And we're like, wow, like, we need to find somebody good in Houston, like ASAP, because it was really hard to find quality guys in that field. So we actually went out to, in 2020, it's like January of 2020, we went out to a Schluter class, and he was like, you should come with me, you take interest in this too. And I'm like, I really don't want to go. Like, I really, really don't want to do this.
You
So
weren't pumped about Schluter class?
no. But I went, and you know, that it was the pivotal moment. That one class changed everything for us. So, like, one thing that I can, like, really truly say here for this podcast, anything, is like, you need to network with people, and you need to get around people, because struggling on your own, you'll never get anywhere. Like, you just will never. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to just not know. It's okay to just be completely, like, lost in the water. And I think that's, like, the best place to be. And the best place to be is to be one of those people who are ready to absorb information. But anyway, um, we went to the Schluter class. I ended up loving it. Like, I picked up the trowel. I was like, hands on, like, let's go, let's do this. Like, I left that class filthy dirty. And I had a blast. Not only did I have a blast, but Schluter, the guys at Schluter, the reps and the territory managers, like, we ended up sitting in the lobby of the hotel that night, because the Schluter class is a 2-day thing, and they pay for your hotel, they pay for your meals for the 2 days. We ended up sitting in the lobby till like 2, 3 in the morning, I think, talking to our area reps and the TMs. And till this day, from 2020 till now, we spend every holiday, Thanksgiving and Christmas, with our Schluter territory manager. Like, that's the kind of relationship we built with him. And that was just the beginning. Then we found this other guy in our area who was doing tile since for like 45 years or some crazy thing. He was charging a day rate of $1,500 a day to come install tile. Like, it wasn't per square foot, nothing. It was literally $1,500 a day, and he was not fast. So his projects were so much money, and we were like, how? So we, like, latched onto him, picked his brain. He taught us so much stuff, and we spent a good majority of time with him, going out to jobs and, like, seeing how he does his estimates and talks with his clients and builds relationships, that he ended up starting a whole new business. And he was like, hey, do you guys want to, this was like, so we went to the sugar class in January, probably by August of 2020, I had quit my job, because Paul from his company was called Cabin and Row. He was like, do you want to take over my client list, because I'm starting Built with Foam, which is another company he started, and I kind of want to retire from tiling. I know that you guys take quality to, to you guys, quality is like your top priority, and really building relationships with people. And, like, it was like kind of all of what he built his business on. So he was like, you guys can take over any projects I have in the pipeline, and I'll refer you to my other clients to kind of get you guys started. But it required us to scale back from taking on full projects, because in the beginning we were like, we need to take any project we can. Little did we know that taking on every project we can was like being a squirrel in the yard, like just trying to pick up any nut instead of trying to pick up the good nuts. It was like we were just picking up anything and they were like half rotten. So yeah, that's kind of the story of how I got to where I am.
Okay. All right. So, wow. First of all, I would like to say I'm really grateful that you're not an accountant for the government anymore. That's cool. I think all of our listeners are happy that you're no longer an auditor. So nobody has to be concerned. She's not auditing anything, none of your books. You're good. I'm very, I would like to hear a little bit more about, you talked about like that 3-year struggle when your husband first started the contracting business. And specifically, you said like he was like bringing no money home. And I'm really interested. Like, the question I'd like to know is like, what was the biggest lesson that you learned from that period? But I'd like to know, like, when was the switch? When was the switch for you guys between your husband, like, because I know what it's like to start a contracting business. So between literally killing yourselves to make nothing to making and building a profitable contracting business, what was the switch? What happened?
The problem is everybody who's in construction, if you are in a trade and you actually physically do the trade, it's a really hard for you to take off that tradesperson hat and put on the business hat and be like, my time is better spent elsewhere. So we always thought, and this was both of us, that we thought that if he wasn't out working on some type of job, that he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do as a business owner. But truthfully, like we could have decided that, I don't know, 5 out of the 10 projects that he would do would have been a waste of our time based on interviewing the client and figuring out, what if we just, I'm trying to think of the best way to answer this question because it's like, it's really just like a mentality switch, truthfully, because from the only thing that changed from us not making money to making money was realizing what client was for us, and in realizing what client is for you is realizing how much money you need to make in your business to survive. A lot of people just go out there and they're like, well, I'll do the job for X and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and then if the client gives you pushback on price or something like that, you're like, okay, well, maybe I could do it for this and that. And it's like you're not really like running your business as a business. You just see yourself as an individual providing a service. But really, especially when you're a contractor, like it's nearly impossible for you to manage a project with subs with multiple things going on and also do work, which is what Chris was doing. So like it was like you're kind of burning the candle at both ends. And I know it sounds cliche, but it is so true. And then also, like by the time your candle's done burning, you got nothing left. It's just like disintegrated. So it's really just like a mindset switch to understand your business, the business, not just the fact that you are going to work and you need to be completing job after job in order to feel like your business is doing something. Because there's so much more when you really like unpack what a business is. It's like you need to do marketing, you need to do accounting, you need to figure out your budget. And the only way, I don't know how anybody does an estimate without understanding what their budget is, like what are their projections to make, what income do they want to make, what's their salary, what are they going to take home, how much do they have to pay in overhead, and there's people literally, we used to do it, throw out estimates without taking any of that into account. So it was really a culmination of meeting key individuals, networking, and realizing little by little that it was our mindset of how we were going at bidding projects that was kind of our downfall with making a profit.
Oh, yes. Wow. All of that. All of that. Awesome. So let me ask you this. Do you think that your accounting background has helped y'all in building and facilitating this business to be profitable instead of just be what most businesses are in contracting, where it's just a cash turnover machine?
100%. Like I always say that I hate that I went to college, but at the same time, I'm very grateful for the knowledge that I have. Don't get me wrong, like taxes and all of that, I I hate it. But when it comes to actually like the behind the scenes stuff, when it comes to understanding those things of how to kind of reverse engineer an estimate based on what my business needs, I wouldn't have been able to learn that if I didn't do what I did. And it makes it a lot less scary for me as a business owner with that part of the business. Um, so yeah, 100% my education helps me there so much. So I'm very grateful for that.
No, it's kind of cool. Like your story up to this point in the story is just it's like unexpected, but obviously all for a reason. Like it's just very interesting to me. So then my next question. So now you're networking and you're setting actually no. So that is a good question. When did you quit the accounting? Because up to this point you still had a job while Chris was trying to do this construction thing. You went to Schluter class. Like when were you like, I'm done with this? I'm gonna be a tile
Yeah.
installer.
So I went to the sugar class. I did some hands-on stuff. Like just to give you a little bit of background on just me. Um, I my father is a stonemason. My dad did heavy construction like my whole younger life, and my dad is an entrepreneur. Like my dad can't work for anybody but himself. Like my dad could start a business anytime, anywhere, like know how to make money. And it just kind of the way he was raised. Like my grandfather owned a pet store, a bagel store. Like they never, even my uncles, his brothers, like they all own businesses. And it's just like the way that he was kind of raised. So it's like my whole life I watched that. And I was kind of the son he never had. Like, and to be honest with you, I would always go out and like help him do different projects and work. A few summers during college, I went to work. I was like, Dad, I was laid off at the time and I can't even remember what job I had, but I wasn't working and I was collecting unemployment. I was like, hey, Dad, can I come to work with you on the weekends and make extra money? And he was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? I'm working outside. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. And I just remember, like, I was like, this is the most fun job ever. I was picking up like these huge rocks and moving them from someone's yard to the trailer. And I loved it. I'm like, oh, I could pick up this rock. I could pick up this rock. That's all I remember was that I could pick up these big, heavy rocks. And I was super proud of myself. But it's just so strange. And like, I always loved just doing projects. When we actually moved to Houston, and Chris was working 24/7. Like he was always constantly working. And if he was home, he was in the office till like late at night working. And I was like, well, I want to renovate this house. So I was like pulling out the tools while he wasn't here. We had to do some brickwork. I just decided to do it on my own and do this and do that. He's like, well, after I went to the sugar class, he's like, why don't you like, start a page, a social media page and start sharing your projects that you like to do? Because then we were tiling our backsplash and he was kind of showing me what to do and how to do it. And I was like liking it, So he's like, just start a page and start sharing your projects, it would be fun for you. And you don't really see a lot of girls doing anything like this. So why don't you just try that? And I was like, okay. And like all the time, like all these different things were just like happening, And then when Paul suggested, like, you guys can do this and you guys can do it together, and that would mean no more hiring subs, no more managing projects, no more, any of that. We would just scale back, and that was kind of a little bit scary for us. We were like, it's like uncharted territory. So we kind of thought on it for a little bit, and I think, let me see, it was like August of 2020. So August of 2020, he was like, I have, these three jobs that are ready to go. So if you guys want to take it, take it. Because if I don't give it to you, then I have to give it to somebody else. So we were like, all right. And I quit. And we just, him and I together, and it was still a struggle because I was so new, and I was so slow and I didn't really know. It wasn't like I could go to the job site and be like, okay, let me start with this, start with this, start with this. It was like he had to help me along the way a lot of the times. Like, whereas now it's like I already know when we're starting a job what has to be done and like all the steps. And I have a lot more confidence with that. But then I didn't. So it was still kind of a struggle, but it was a whole different world. Like when we started realizing the money we can make when we scale back and we just focused on one niche. it might not be for everybody, because I know some people want to scale and want to do bigger projects and have employees and make more money. But for us, it was like working really well at the time.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So, do you want these 3 jobs? You're like, sure, quit your job, and that was it. It was really that's okay.
Yeah,
That's cool.
because we figured, we're like, okay, listen, like we already changed our entire life back in 2017 when we both just up and left and moved to Texas. This is nothing. But like I could find a job anytime. So it's like we may as well try to do this. Like this is what we moved here to do, right? So it's like if we don't take the chance now, we don't have kids yet. We weren't married yet. It was like we made it this far. We may as well just try, and we did.
There's a lot to be said about being able to step out on faith like that and take a risk. That's awesome. And I'm glad you shared that about like growing up with your and coming from it's so interesting. You came from this like wildly entrepreneurial family and then went into accounting though. It's like very
Yep.
much not the entrepreneurial. Most entrepreneurs do not get involved in accounting. We're all generally very ignorant when it comes to accounting practice.
My dad, the thing is like on my mom's side of the family, there was a lot of people who were educated, went to school, did all that other stuff. And it was like kind of, I was definitely sucked into that generation of people who were like, you need to go to college in order to be successful. Um, so I think that that was the reason. I really truly believe that I had to go to college to be successful. And I thought that I would have been successful when I went to this job. And I realized that, like, on the outside looking in, yeah, I can say my title is such and such and I work here. And it sounds really cool. But in all honesty, what I was doing was not fulfilling me. So I don't really care what somebody else thinks my job is. It's like I'm I hate my life. There is no
Uh,
purpose in doing this. And there's a ceiling to how great I could be, Nobody else around me is growing. No one else around me is like pushing the envelope to do anything great. They just show up every day, do what they're told, and go home. Like that's not me.
Yeah, I wish that more people could have that level of self-awareness and be okay with giving up titles and silly stuff that means not. I know a lot of people who the title is so important, and yet I know they're miserable in everything that they're doing. I know people that would be happier and more fulfilled in a van with tools and probably make more than they're making now,
Yeah.
and they just can't wrap their head around being an installer or I don't know. It's crazy to me, but I have gone through it. All right, so you didn't just start doing tile; you actually grew up with construction and feeling good about it. Look, I'm sorry, I don't care if you're a man or a woman. There is something very fulfilling about picking up something super heavy and going, "I picked that up successfully."
Yeah.
So, like
Yeah.
do it in the gym, like it do. Very, very fulfilling about that. So you started. I had no idea that your social media presence started with like DIY at home project videos. So like how did that evolve? Was that super quick? Like was that a what that look like?
I was taking, I was just taking videos. Well, okay, so Chris was taking videos, and we were just, he had his business page. And so whenever we did a project on the house or I did a project on the house, I would take videos. I would just send it to him, like, oh, look at what I did. He would be at work and like, he was like, wow, that's amazing. That's cool or whatever. We had to actually, all right, let me just say, this is a piece I left out was our big life goal is to invest in real estate, and it's primarily multifamily properties. That is our goal. So the house I'm sitting in right now was like our first house. We put everything that we had into it. We renovated it, him and I together. Like 90% of this house is us, besides like the windows, some electrical work, etc. We did everything. And any spare money we had, we put into this house. And the floors were, because there was like a monolithic terrazzo pour from like the front entryway to like the living room, dining room area, and in the kitchen. The bedrooms all were uh, like I don't know, I think it was like 2 inches lower than like the rest of the house. So we wanted to put LVP through the entire house. And in order to do that, we had to raise up the floors in the bedrooms. There's 4 bedrooms. Oh, and in the living room, which now we made the dining room, was also low. So we had to bring up the floors. And that was like, I'm talking 1 in the morning with the concrete mixer outside, us bringing wheelbarrows into the house and screeding the floor, like all hours of the night. Like our neighbors probably thought we were insane.
Oh, for sure.
Um, yeah, like so when we first moved into our house, like there was no Thanksgiving, there was no Christmas. Like we were just talking about this the other day. Like on Thanksgiving, we went down the street to eat pizza. Like we were the only people in like the pizza restaurant. Like, because we like didn't really know anybody when we first moved here, and we were just like trying to work. And we worked as much as we could, day and freaking night. Like I would go to work, after work, we'd be here working on the house. And like if Chris wasn't working a project, he was doing something in this house to try to get it done, because eventually we want to move out of here and rent it out. But because of like all the things we were trying to do at one time, it's like probably ends up being worse off for us than if we were just focusing on one thing. But because like we were starting a business, I was quitting my job. Things just like change and happen so fast. Proud to say like we actually got this house complete, but now we're in a better financial situation where eventually pretty soon we can move out of here and rent it out and buy our next one. But man, it's been interesting.
Yeah, that it. So, did you document that whole process and put that on social media? Like when the whole
Not the whole process. Not the
okay.
whole process, because at the time it wasn't even, the thought in my mind. Like I took some photos and like we would video here and there, but not to the level that we do now. Like we weren't thinking like creators at the time. We were just like, oh, look, we're painting, snap a picture. Oh, look, like we're going to hang this drywall. We could take a quick time lapse, but it was like terrible lighting, horrible, not thought through, and just like on the fly. But yeah, we documented some of it. And like, I wish now looking back, I wish we would have documented more, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Okay, so how did it go from pictures here and there to like creator? Because that's definitely not because like we were hanging out at FloorCon and took a picture and like we had to take like 17 pictures in the right lighting. Like you and Chris are definitely on it now with the lighting and the proper photo. So like how did it go from just documentation to content creation?
Well, so once I decided to quit my job and do all of that, I like posted it on my page. And like I said, we were part of these like online Facebook tile groups. So I started posting in there. A couple of my posts in these groups kind of went viral within the group, and people started following me on Instagram. I grew very quickly from the beginning on Instagram because like I just started sharing a bunch of different things that I already had, took pictures of or videos of. And the main thing was sharing the story. At the time, like back in 2020, we didn't have like the reels and the short form video yet. It was still a little bit more simpler. Um, and I was just sharing stories. So I'm a big fan of Andy Frisella, and I listened to 2 podcasts that he had put out, and it was about influencers, and he was just talking about what makes somebody great as far as like an online personality, I guess, or being an influencer. Not so much like not like just being an influencer trying to sell something, but like how do you get people to give a crap about what it is that you're sharing? And I kind of followed that. And that was basically just all about like telling a story, how to engage with people, thinking about what it is that they're looking for, as far as like what's going to resonate with your target audience and make content for them. So I was doing all that at the time through captions, and it was primarily Instagram. Like I didn't have any other platform at the time. So that's how that started. And my page very quickly grew. And like when people shared my posts, I reposted them. I spent hours of time on the platform, like messaging people back, answering comments, like doing all of that stuff that Instagram wants you to do. They want you to be on the platform. So you have to spend time doing it. That's what we spent so many hours, like me and Chris spent so many hours responding to people, sharing people's stories, and like doing all this stuff to kind of be a good social media friend. Like at the end of the day, just do that, and that really helped tremendously to build all that.
I've never heard anybody put it that way. Just be a good social media friend.
Yeah, like I think that a lot of people are like, look at me, I'm great. And I don't think that that works anymore. Like maybe back in 2010 that worked, but now it's not. Like you're not great. Answer people, and then that makes you great, because really social media is for social interaction. So if you're not doing that and you're just like kind of putting on a show, you're not Britney Spears. Like, I'm sorry, but your work is probably great and it's beautiful, or whatever. Your body's probably amazing. But like, truthfully, it's very hard to just do that nowadays and be successful at it. I think that like if you need to put in a little bit more effort.
I love that. I'm a big Andy fan as well. All the way from the MF CEO project through, now Real AF. And I'm a big Gary V fan too. And for like, he's been talking for a long time about just documenting your story and being patient, because those are the
Yeah.
people that are going to last in that
Mm-hmm.
content creation and influencer category. Okay. So Instagram blew up. Were you a part of that, like that COVID era? I don't even know if I don't like TikTok wave where like everything, like, is that when you started, or were you a little later than that? Because you have a pretty big following on TikTok too, don't you?
I don't even know when I started posting TikTok. Like, I don't even know. Like maybe maybe the end of 2020, maybe early 2021. I just started doing it because people were like, oh, you gotta get on TikTok. It's really cool, blah, blah, blah. I just reposted content that I had from Instagram on TikTok and just continued to do it. And it just got a lot of views. Like, I'm only just now starting to make content just for TikTok. Like, I like to do more fun stuff on TikTok, because that's the kind of platform it is. Instagram is more, it's like I have this thing where I call Facebook the Walmart of social media. I call Instagram is like the mean girls of social media, like they're, to be at the Instagram table, like everything has to be very strategic and perfect. And like TikTok is like recess, everybody's screaming. It's just crazy, a wild ride. Like you don't even know what you're going to get when you're scrolling through, but somehow you're interested. Like, I don't know. That's how it is for me. So I like to do some more fun stuff on TikTok, more like showing my personality, kind of like what I would do on IG stories. If I had a random thought of the day or random things that come about, I'll try it on TikTok versus Instagram, where it's like I have a schedule, I have to plan out the content. It has to make sense. Somebody has to get value out of it. Otherwise, I feel I can't post it on Instagram. And that's just because of it's the mean girl platform.
I, Also an amazing analogy. I am absolutely going to give you credit, but I am going to say that like forever. That is perfect. Okay, so what is all right, so your following took off pretty quickly. Now I've talked to I've heard multiple sides of this, but I've heard that there are some significant challenges, um, like when a following takes off really quickly or it amasses to a certain level. And so I'm interested, like, what are some of the challenges that you found as that? And I think maybe touching on one, like having to be on there for hours and hours and but what are some of the bigger challenges over the last 2 years as this following has really become significant?
Since your listeners are a bit like business owners, contractors, the challenges that you're going to face, like if you're like, I want to do social media, is your business model will change. Like there is no way that you can tell me that I'm going to be successful on social and my business is going to stay the same, because it didn't for us, right? 2020, we're like tile contractors full time. By now, all of 2022, we're mainly content creators and tile contractors second. But that was a big shift, and I'm still struggling with it now. So it's like, because right now I'm like a content creator and I partner with brands. So those are now my customers. Yeah, I'll still take on a tile project, but I'm even pickier with who it is, because it's like, am I going to like the project? Do I want to do this project? All this stuff. Is this client going to allow me to film in their home? These are all things that matter. And it's like, I get offers to work with this builder, that builder, and I turn it down. A lot of people would be like, they're not going to turn that down. But really, my time is more valuable doing the other things. And it's because I make a lot more money doing certain things than the other. And it's like, now it enables me to be more picky. Like, if there's a special job, I'll likely take it, even if it's like, even if they might not pay me my full rate, because it would be really good for my content. So like, my business model has changed a lot. And if you're looking to be in social media and do what I do, like, a lot of people, they have a big following, or they have, a decent following, and they're just sharing basic stuff from their work, and that's fine. But like, to be a personality online and to do all this other stuff, it's like completely different. You can't, like, I just can't see anybody being able to do both. I just can't. Because it's a different business entirely. I have to plan out a job based around the content that I'm making. And it would really kind of be is that the right word? Not advantageous, I don't know, for me to take on a project and like take all this time filming when I'm in a client's home, when they need to get their house back in order, right? Like, that's not fair to them. It's also not fair to me if I make money creating content that I can't make as much content as I possibly can. So then you're like stuck in this spot where you're like, dang, like, what do I do? How do I manage both of these things that are like, have two different timelines, have two different requirements, all of this stuff, all in a field where it requires you to be working and doing a trade. It's kind of like you want to pull your hair out sometimes. And I'm still struggling with this now. So if anybody has the answer, please feel free to send me a message. But I'm just still figuring it out. And honestly, beyond that, having your following grow is just more people critiquing you, and you have to be okay with that. Not that I'm saying that anybody's entitled to share their opinion with you, because I think that I'm thinking about this the other day, because I got this random DM that someone was like, oh, well, if you don't like criticism, then don't put yourself out there. It's like, I don't know who you are to think that you're entitled to give me criticism just because I share stuff on the internet. Like, you must be a super entitled person that you think that of yourself, that like, I should hear what you have to say in the first place. Like, you're making an active choice to watch my stuff. So if you don't like it and it triggers you, then just don't watch it. I mean, you're not entitled to tell me how you feel, really. But that's what you deal with on the internet, and it's kind of like, you have to get over it. That was something I had to get over. Whether you're a female, male, doesn't matter. Words hurt, and like, people are, oh my gosh, ruthless on the internet. Ruthless. It used to bother me. Now it's like, glaze is over. I don't even think about it twice. Like, it is what it is. Not going to stop me. So like, those are just a couple things that we've struggled with, I know. And the main part is the business thing and the business side, and it changes rapidly.
Okay, yeah. So like, haters sending you DMs and you're like, I'm getting paid good money for this. I literally don't care what you say. Like, this
Yeah.
is, yeah, I don't care.
Like,
So you're back to business owner hat on.
yeah. I mean, for the most part, yeah. Um, and I think, like, I'm an entrepreneur. So like I said, I'm going to be honest, I don't want to be a content creator forever. It's just, I don't want to be, because I feel like it's another job, right? Like, I am required to do XYZ. I have to do this. I have to do that. There's requirements. Yes, I'm on my own, but also, like, there's so much requirements that I have to fulfill all the time. And I'm like, it puts you in a box. So um, I'm looking for ways that I can go back to being an entrepreneur, right? Like, there's things in my mind that I know that I want to do, that I'm going to try to do. But like, again, I'm in this transition period where I'm tile contractor, content creator, but I want to be self-sufficient because every square that I post on the internet, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, whatever it is, if it's bringing value to a viewer, right, and bringing value to me monetarily, I want it to be fully for me. I want to create content that is good for my viewers, that is going to resonate with them, give them value, entertain them, whatever, and mainly be like something that I love to share, not me being put in a box to share certain things because the brand I'm working with requires it, if that makes sense. Like I want to share
Yeah.
what's best for the people who follow me, right? And then also build a business around.
Okay. So, all right. Do you find like on the point of like, I feel like it's a job again. Do you find like similarities between that point when I was an installer, I was a cabinet installer before I owned this business and we scaled it and full kitchen bath remodel and all that fun stuff and coaching. I was an installer with a broken down van. Like that was who I was. Do you find any similarities between kind of trying to figure out like how do I scale myself? I can only do so many jobs. I can only complete on the job site and also with the content creation. Like I can only create so much content. Like it's all me. I only have X amount of time in the day. Like, do you find any similarities there?
Yes, because it's only me and Chris. So like anytime we're doing a job, it's like, okay, time to stop. We got to film for this because I have YouTube. So it's like we got to pull out one camera for the YouTube and do that. We got to pull out another camera for Instagram. Oh, we got to take stories. Like, so between that and then also like, okay, now we have to stop. We have to mix thinset. We can only work for so long because the thinset's only good for so long. And it's like, and we're only two people, right? And then when we're done with that, we have to edit the videos. We have to answer our emails. We have to do video calls. We have to do all of this stuff. And I'm just like, boy, like, wow. And I had this fantastic idea that I'm going to start a blog, right, a couple of months ago. So I have my sister helping me with that, and it's great. It's just she's also in school to be an electrical engineer, so like her workload is super heavy, and I need somebody full time. Like I need five people, and it's really hard to like I'm feeling so many growing pains right now, and I'm probably in the same boat that a lot of people are. They might be in a different boat, but like I'm on the struggle bus when it comes to managing my time and being like, because a lot of times it's that same mindset where I feel we can only do so much. And are we shooting ourselves in the foot, sort of say, by not putting somebody in place to do certain tasks, because our time is really valuable in certain places and we're taking that value away by like watering it down essentially.
I have so much that I want to respond to that, but I'm going to do it offline.
Okay.
I'm gonna share a couple of things with you, some time audit and allocation resources that might help you guys that I use with my clients. That'll be good. I'm very intrigued. Two things. One, I absolutely love how you probably could have hired at least a person a while ago to help with this, and you very obviously like really enjoy pouring your actual self into your content. Like even the fact that like your sister's helping with the blog, like you didn't hire a VA from out of the country. Like you could have done a lot inexpensively to outsource this, but like you're still putting 100% of Shannon into the content you're creating. I think that's amazing. Seriously. So well done. And then I find it, it's intriguing to me how challenging content creation and actually like being an influencer and doing this actually is, because there's a lot of, I hear like that must be nice about content creators. Like that must be nice from a lot of people. Like, I wish I did that. I'd love to be an influencer. And like, now I'm hearing you, a legitimate influencer, huge following, lots of platforms being like, this is hard. This is a full-time job on top of our full-time job, on top of our two businesses. And I started a blog. Like,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest, right? Like, I do think that being an influencer in a trade is, and maybe I'm biased, again, if somebody's out there that isn't in a trade and you're an influencer, I don't mean to offend you, but truthfully, we're building stuff, right? The materials don't just show up to the job. The coordination doesn't just happen. All of the behind the scenes that it takes to get a job built and completed successfully and done to a quality standard to make somebody else happy in their home, in their greatest investment, is huge, a big deal, right? Now you're going to add making content, filming, premeditated thought, more planning on top of all of the freaking planning you're already doing to complete the project. And manage people if you have guys working for you, like all of that stuff. The headaches, the fires you're putting out on a daily basis, the phone calls, this, that, the emails, the questions from the client. Then you're also getting questions from brands and this and that. And it's like, I think being a content creator in the trades is 10 times more valuable, and we should get paid 10 times more than somebody who's doing an outfit of the day every day. I'm sorry, but like it's not, I don't think that must be nice because I don't want to do that. But I'm just saying that it takes 10 times more effort. You understand? Like to be able to do that. Not only if you're working for a brand and they're like, okay, well, we want you to build this bathroom. Now you have to go find a bathroom. It doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's not like we can just change our clothes if we're showing a shirt that a brand sent us, right? Like it's like we can't just take the tile and be like, yeah, here's the job. Like, what if a client doesn't want that? What if the client doesn't want that or this or that? Like, you literally need to custom fit that brand's requirements into a project, which is already, the project is already complicated to pre-plan, execute, make sure you make a profit, make sure everybody who's working for you does what they're supposed to do, make sure your cash flow is good, make sure your business is good, and then also make content and adhere to brand guidelines. Like, it's like you should be making a lot of money if a brand reaches out to you and you are in a trade doing anything and they want you to make content for them. I'm telling you, a lot of money.
Wow. Wow. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. I don't
Yeah.
even have like a major question to follow that up with. I just love everything that you just said. I own a renovation company and we post like 280 pieces of content a month. And like, yeah, I have a whole social media. I shared that on stage with you. I had to hire a whole social media team plus a videographer. Plus I have to have like 3 of my staff members coordinate. You can't just walk into people's homes either. You can't just be like, hey, I'm here with a camera. Like we're going to film in your house now. Like you got to coordinate so much. It's just nice to talk to somebody who appreciates that a little bit. So.
Yeah. But at first you don't realize the value that you're bringing. So like we spend a lot of time like doing things for not enough money when it came to social media. And we were realizing the strain it put on our jobs and ourselves. And we're like, so it caused us to do more research and do all this other stuff. And it's like, just remember, like, and I just know that a lot of people who are small business owners, I'm talking like the one truck guy, they don't find themselves valuable a lot of times. A lot of times they don't see that what they do is anything great or anything special. Like they let their work speak for themselves. But truly, like your years spent gaining that skill is something to be said. So if social media is something that you're interested in doing or you just do it, just know that if a brand reaches out to you, you should be getting paid a good amount of money. And those are all the reasons why. It's a hell of a lot of work.
So how would is there a piece of advice you could give that person in an effort to help them determine their value? I don't mean like a dollar amount but like, is there a piece of advice you could give them where they could understand what to be asking for or how to ask for it if a brand does reach out?
Okay, so here's what the brand is getting, right? If you have any sort of following, it doesn't matter if it's like 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever, right? There's different levels of influencers, and each one of them is valuable in their own way. And then also, it matters because of what it is you're doing, right? Like it, as a contractor, whatever, tradesperson, it's a specialty niche. And there's not a lot of us who are actually influencers, but there's a ton of brands and companies that are in the construction industry that we're still very behind. I will admit. But there is still companies that need us, right? Because right now there a lot of them are relying on DIYers, not truly any trade, any like skilled trades. They're not really like relying on those guys. They're relying on DIYers to put their name out there. But if you look at like retail brands and companies that are in retail stores, those are likely the companies that would want to work with you, because they are the most accessible to the end user. So, in order for you to determine your value, you have to think about exactly what it is that you do when you are selling to a client. Why is your price what it is, right? All the things that go into it. You are providing a um, like a highly targeted audience. Anybody who follows you for your content, they're targeted. Like these social media algorithms are insanely intelligent. So anybody who's following you is benefit for you if a brand wants to work with you, because that's their target audience, right? You're literally, it's like them shooting fish in a barrel. You've already collected all of it. Say, for example, if they were going to run an ad on Facebook, the audience that they're getting is not as targeted as what you're giving. So like if you said, okay, if you put in the parameters on Facebook and saw what Facebook charged, you should be charging. Maybe you can't get what Facebook charges, but you can get a good amount of money, right? Like I did this once to tell a brand, like I ran parameters for what Facebook would charge for what they were requesting, because what they were requesting was insane. So I did that and I said, this is what you would owe me for 2 years if I did this. It was like $2 million.
Yep.
You're advertising to a target audience that you created and collected for a brand, right? So in addition to that, like they want to own your content, they want to use it for their own like digital ads and all of that stuff. You should be making money every single month that they're using that for an ad. So like there's a percentage that I'll charge. Like if say if the rate for something, would it be okay if I shared like a price? I don't want to make people go by one certain price, but like
Yeah,
I'm just
share.
gonna use
No. Yeah.
okay. I'm gonna use this for an example. On average, and like if you look this up on the internet, this isn't what I charge. Like I'm charging more than this because of my specialty, but on average for a reel, I'm talking like 30 seconds or less, you can probably get around like $6,000 for that video. Now, you want to charge an additional 30% for usage rights. So that means that brand is going to use it for whatever ads. You never want to allow a brand to use your content forever, because that means they own it. And that means that now you're not the owner anymore. And if you're not the owner, you can't use it for anything. So if you started a business selling t-shirts or whatever, and you had the t-shirt on in that video and you wanted to use it on your website, like they can sue you. Meanwhile, you're the person who created the content. Additionally, like if that brand decided to go sideways and I don't know, like this whole Balenciaga scandal that's going on. Like you don't want your name to be caught up in that and for them to own rights to your face essentially, because they have more money to deal with liability than we will as a creator. So you want to limit that. Like I'm going to limit you for 1 year usage. If I have worked with the brand before, sometimes I'll give them 1 year. Usually when I haven't, it's like 6 months. So that type of stuff. Like there's so many different ways. Like I just did a video with Next Insurance. I didn't have to post it on my page. Like they just used it for their ad. Like they paid me a money for the ad and then they're running it and now they're also paying me monthly for the usage. So it's like you just have to be very careful and know what it is that you're giving. So in addition to the audience, you're giving them you've invested in camera. You have a team of people, so that's even more, right? Like you probably can provide super high quality videos to a brand if they approached you and you tell them all these things, like I have a person who does the camera, who does this, who does that, like whatever it is that they do, and it gives them reason to understand your value that you're providing. You're not just a guy with an iPhone shooting off the cuff. everything's premeditated. So like you're able to give them a higher quality piece of content, and therefore they need to be prepared to pay for that or have a budget for that. So all of those things, you just have to communicate across those things and know that what it is, they wouldn't be approaching you if you weren't providing value. So understand that. Don't lessen like what your value is just because you feel it's not valuable. Trust and believe companies wouldn't be paying influencers and content creators if what they did wasn't valuable. So you just have to find ways to communicate that across and make sure that you're selling it to them in a way that they can understand. And there's a lot of stuff online. Like I could go for 6 hours talking about this, but really there's a lot of stuff online that you can research and look up. And like that's really how I learned by that, and I learned by like just doing. But truly, like everybody's different. You know, there's no one roadmap, but really knowing that it's valuable and knowing what to search for, like how to charge for being a content creator, like you'll get so much information that's almost overwhelming.
There's a First of all, thank you so much for sharing. That was an incredibly in-depth perspective on the business side of content creation. No, that is amazing. That is like, the whole time you're talking, I'm like, why is she not like, you should start a company just training people how to brand and content and negotiate for their deals. You could just coach
Well,
people
I would love
like,
to. I have all these ideas, but I need help executing the problem. That's the problem. I need help.
all right, well, maybe you can help me with some content execution. I'll help you with some entrepreneurial execution. Maybe we could trade off services there. So
Sounds
that
good.
that was no, that was incredible. But I do want to touch on like as we wrap this up, there's a common theme in everything that you're saying, and this continues to come back to like knowing your value, like knowing your worth, understanding that you like really like a lot of this, like trusting your gut and like mindset shift. There's a mindset shift moving, a mindset shift in accounting, a mindset shift in profitability for the construction company, a mindset shift to go do tile full time, and now a mindset shift for this content creation company. You own a content creation company, 100%.
Yeah.
That's like a business. I want to be very clear about that for everybody. This isn't just somebody shooting a video, posting it, it went viral. Now what do I do? This is like a business. Like, would you agree with that? That a lot of this theme in the last few years of your life is just leveling up your understanding of your value to the world?
Yes. 100%. 100%. It's like what Breck said when we were at FloorCon. He's like, you're a media company first. And it's 100% true. That's what I am. I'm a media company first. And it just happens to be that my media revolves around being a tradesperson and doing physical projects. So, yeah.
That's awesome. If you had to leave one piece of advice, suggestion, or because it's an easy out, book to the listeners before we close it, what would that be?
Okay. One piece of advice, like I said earlier, I know that I probably said it so many times, is like what you're doing is valuable. Your skills, your knowledge, all of that provides value. So whatever it is that you're doing, if you're dealing with clients or you want to be a content creator in whatever space it is you're in, there's value in it. And just know that not every customer this is big. Not every customer is for you. It's okay to not fight with a client when they don't want to pay you what you're worth, but just to respectfully decline to work with them altogether. It's imperative for you and for your business when you have a handle on what it is you're doing to know your value and to stick to that at all costs. Because you turning down that one job that would have paid you $5,000 less than what you should be charging, so you're losing money, like they're literally taking money out of your pocket, could very well lead you to a job that would be equal, that would actually pay you what you're worth, right? Because instead of spending time working for that job where you weren't making the money, you spend time marketing and networking. So it led you to a client that was willing to pay your value, right? Like I'd 100% of the time rather spend the time networking and doing things to better my business so that I can get paid what I'm worth rather than just to be saying I'm swinging a hammer to look like my business is doing something when I'm not making a profit. They're two separate mindsets, and making the shift is extremely difficult if you are in a trade and you physically do it all the time. It is so hard, but it is imperative as a business owner. Stop thinking of yourself as just a tradesperson. You are a business owner. It's so different. It's a different thing.
Mm, that was great.
And for a book, uh, I don't know. Set for Life by Scott Trench. And it's like just about investing your money and how to retire early. I think anybody who's a small business owner um, really needs to, and especially in the contracting world, like you need to think about your money and how you're going to retire. Because my dad still is going to be working forever because he never understood that side of anything. So,
well, thank you so much. I'm going to put the Set for Life. You said Scott Trench.
yes.
I'm going to put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for,
of course. Thank you.
Yeah, for all of that. Yeah, you are not just a tradesperson. You are a business owner. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool. Thank you so much for coming on here. Yeah, I can't wait for this to release. I'm going to put the book and all of Shannon's numerous handles to various social media channels. I was on the phone. I was on a call with one of my clients right before ours, and I said, "Hey, I got to run. I got a podcast interview." He's like, "Cool, who are you interviewing?" I was like, "Oh, Shannon. She's that tile chick on Instagram." He's like, "Oh my God, like I've been following her for a while." I'm like, "Yeah, she's cool." So
that's cool.
I'll put Shannon's handles in the show notes, though you're probably following her. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.